All right, guys, I got a lot of requests to cover this video. I have not watched this yet, but I have this Dreamcast video here to react to. So let's see what DreamCastGuy has to say about Nintendo Switch 2.
Hey there, gamers, DreamCastGuy here. Today we're talking about the Nintendo Switch 2. It has now been an entire year since this piece of trash came out. Okay, maybe it's not a piece of trash, but I did buy a Nintendo Switch 2 on day one. It cost me $500, and in a lot of ways, when I first got this thing, I hated it. I actually hated it, because to me, part of that upfront annoyance was the fact that it cost so much.
$500 is not a lot of money. I don't know why these people keep bitching about the price. Like, iPhones cost twice that much. iPads cost like 6 times that much. Like, gaming PCs are like 6 times that much. Like, what is with these people and acting like the $500 price tag is unreasonable? It just isn't. Like, at all. It just feels like a cope, especially these days, considering how everything else on the market is now significantly more expensive.
This being $500, it's literally triple the price I paid for my Nintendo Switch 1. In a lot of ways, it just feel like it didn't have those big, crazy games I wanted. But since that first launch sticker shock, I've played hundreds and hundreds of hours of my Nintendo Switch 2. I've played a lot of exclusives. I've played a lot of games. I've ran the battery dead about 10 different times. I've traveled with it. And I wanted to kind of give some thoughts about how, in a lot of ways, I feel like I hate the Nintendo Switch 2 less. But I feel like it kind of betrays the promise of the Nintendo Switch. The whole idea of the Switch, the name itself, is, hey, it's both a portable and it's a console. And I feel like they've given that up. I think the Nintendo Switch 2 is a fantastic console with some truly great games, some truly incredible, literally experiences you can only have on this, but it's just not a handheld anymore.
What are you talking about, you fucking retard? Is he implying they got rid of the switching functionality? Like, is he saying they don't have a handheld mode? This doesn't even make any sense from, like, a conceptual level. I don't understand what his point is.
And to me, I feel like the cost is too great. Let's get into it. Hi, hope you're having a great day. If you could please give this video a like and subscribe if you haven't already. Now, this is very much just off the cuff. I'm just talking because I have been playing so much Nintendo Switch 1 and Nintendo Switch 2 over the course of the last year, and I've kind of been reflecting on how these console generations always start out sort of rough, right? Even the original Nintendo Switch, as much as I like the Nintendo Switch 1 now, that even in its first year, that first 6 months, it was pretty much a Breath of the Wild machine, right? But when the first Nintendo Switch was really blowing up, when it was selling 100 million units and everybody was buying it, we started to get these very interesting downgraded ports. There were games that ran on the Nintendo Switch 1 that were very bad graphics, crazy dips in frame rate, extremely low resolution, right? So a lot of people, the biggest ask of the original Nintendo Switch, something that I myself repeated constantly was, hey, give us a Nintendo Switch with much better horsepower. More graphics, more RAM, more storage, more ability to basically play big bombastic games. And in that way, the Nintendo Switch 2 is exactly what we wanted for. Maybe not quite what we hoped it would be, but this really is that next-gen handheld experience that, honestly, everybody hoped it would be. This game is able to play stuff that seems utterly impossible. Now, it still makes some sacrifices. The fact that you could play like the Final Fantasy VII remakes, and yeah, they have bad pop-in and they're stuck at 30 FPS, but it's wild that they exist. And the fact that they even look as good as they do seems to be freaking black magic. Or obviously, the game everybody talks about all the time. It's wild that Cyberpunk looks and runs as good as it is. How in the world is this even possible? It's really interesting to see that in a lot of ways, the potential of the Nintendo Switch 2, it really shows that Nintendo can make a console that is actually a hardware pusher just via like optimization. Like,
Cyberpunk came out in 2020. Like, what's with this nonsense that people think it's some like technical marvel, that it's some like crazy wizardry, that it's like significantly more advanced than other games? Because newsflash, it isn't. Like, it's just a basic game. There's nothing interesting or special about Cyberpunk. I don't know why people really treat Cyberpunk as if it's like a perpetual AAA release. Like, it's still like a top of the line cutting edge game like 6 years later, and it's just not. like at all. It wasn't good when it came out. It wasn't good when it came out on Switch 2. Like I don't understand the attempts by people like Dreamcast Guy to create the illusion that Cyberpunk 2077 is a particularly impressive port. Like, nobody cares about it. Nobody talks about it. It's over.
Recently, I was playing a bunch of the Resident Evils. Resident Evil Village, still one of my favorite games of all time. It is the entire game in its most peak, beautiful glory on the Nintendo Switch 2.
Did he just say that Resident Evil Village is one of his favorite games of all time?
Retard alert! Retard alert! Retard alert! Retard alert!
He has shit taste. Play more games.
Resident Evil Requiem, personally, my favorite game of the entire game. That's like literally the 2026 banger that's happened so far. That's on the Nintendo Switch 2, and it looks fantastic. It plays fantastic. Like, yeah, the hair looks a little funky, but to me, it's crazy that it's on there. I feel like my biggest gripe, though, still about the Nintendo Switch 2 is that we still just don't have those crazy exclusives. I'll be honest, there's a lot of stuff that came out, like a new Mario Tennis. I don't care. A new Mario Soccer. So much of this stuff. I did not really like Donkey Kong Bonanza. The rest of the internet liked it, but even then it felt like such a flash in the pan. Hey, a new Donkey Kong, and it's gone. Oh, there's a new Kirby, and it's gone.
Donkey Kong Bonanza is, I believe, still the second highest selling exclusive on Nintendo Switch 2. You know, I think it's like, what, at 4.5 million units sold? People keep saying that's not impressive, but when you take into consideration that, like, the console is still not reach its apex, that this game is going to be an evergreen title and sell perpetually, like, it's actually doing very, very well. And that's something that retards like Dreamcast Guy can't seem to wrap their minds around. And of course, Kirby Air Riders did very well for itself as well. This is just retarded. Again, I'm so tired of seeing these guys like try and say these games have failed or underperformed or they're not very good. It simply isn't true.
Even Mario Kart World did not have nearly the splash as like Mario Kart 8 did. Now, you could be mad that Mario Kart 8 was like a Wii U port, but honestly, that had hundreds of tracks, so much of a big online community. I'll be honest, I still like Mario Kart 8 10 times more than World, and I feel like a lot of people feel that way.
This weird revisionist history trying to glaze 8 is just laughably stupid. Because 8 was hated when it came out on Wii U. You know, people bitched about the roster. People said it wouldn't save the console, yada, yada, yada. And then it got ported to Switch, and people bitched about it not being a new game, that it was just a port. And it took a long time for Mario Kart 8 Deluxe to be taken seriously, because a lot of people, myself included, did not buy it right away because, like, we already own the original. So Mario Kart 8 Deluxe did not, like, release on Switch and then go on to be the best-selling game ever right away. It sold those numbers over a long period of time, and that's what we're going to see with World. That's what we're going to see with Bonanza. That's what we're going to see with a lot of these Nintendo games going forward.
It seems like so far a lot of the conversation around Nintendo Switch 2 is that why isn't it a bit better? And part of that comes down to the fact that we've had so few performance boost games. I was thinking about this, right? A lot of games ran very rough on the original Nintendo Switch simply because they were kind of dealing with the bounds of it. This thing now has way more power, way more RAM and stuff, right? But a lot of these games still aren't really getting a performance boost. Some are. Games like Risk of Rain look way, way better. But I also think about Resident Evil 4 still has issues in handheld. There's so many games that straight up still don't work or aren't boosted that much. And I feel like that's my big problem, right? Is that I got a PlayStation 5 day one. And the PS5 year one, let's face it, it sucked. It had like two good games, right? We had Spider-Man Miles Morales, which was also on PlayStation 4, but much better on PS5. But we also had like Returnal, right? But
both of those games were slop. Like, who is he trying to fool? Like, Returnal, like, nobody remembers Returnal, and like Miles Morales is a joke. Who even is Miles Morales? I don't know who this guy is or why I should care about him. Like, I just don't get it. Like, Miles Morales is a nobody.
I think it's the fact that even when you played PlayStation 4 games on PlayStation 5, they looked better. There was no longer load times. Everything was instantaneous because of the solid state. It got an auto boost in resolution and frame rate. Every game on the PlayStation 4 instantly looked better on the PlayStation 5. It was like the PlayStation 4 Pro. So
that happened with the Switch 2 as well. Games like Bayonetta 3 look and run way better on Switch 2 than they did on Switch 1.
Honestly, very annoyed about the fact that so many games don't really look that boost it on the Nintendo Switch 2. I mean, they just don't. Some do, like Mario Bowser Fury does look better, and some got actual updates and upgrades like the Breath of the Wild next-gen patch, but it still feels like a lot of times what I'm playing the most on this is just Nintendo Switch 1 games. I still feel like literally on my home screen right now, what am I playing? I don't know, man. A bunch of Final Fantasies like I always play, a Pokemon port, things like Dragon's Dogma, which did get a boost because of this better horsepower, and in a lot of ways, I still feel like I have found myself playing probably more Nintendo Switch 1 on my Switch Lite this year than my Nintendo Switch 2. And part of that comes down to the fact that there is no longer the ability to just pick up and play the way that the Switch 1 had.
What is he talking about? So first of all, the Switch 2 has backwards compatibility and the portability aspect. So what that means is like literally everything he's saying here is not true. You can still play the old Switch 1 games on your Switch 2 and it's still very much portable.
This thing is very, very big. And I'll be honest, I do not like these Joy-Cons. These things are way too big, in my opinion. Way too big. Look at that. The fact that it literally is just so enormous that it literally hangs out of my hand. I just think that this thing is straight up not as good comfortability-wise, even when you are trying to play it with like the Joy-Con grips. The Pro Controller is fantastic, but again, it just feels like, all right, so I'm using either Nintendo Switch 1 controllers, whoop-de-doo, or I'm buying this overpriced, rather crappy GameCube controller, right? I don't know. It just feels like in a lot of ways, because this thing doesn't have customizable mapping, this does not work really on anything except the retro games.
You fucking retard. That is a replica of a GameCube controller. It is specifically designed to play GameCube games on NSO. I don't understand what he's talking about. Like, oh man, you can't custom map buttons and you can't use the GameCube controller on other games. Yes, because it's very specifically for Nintendo classics.
And that's the other part of it, right? I still have like most of what I'm playing on my Nintendo Switch 2 is Nintendo Switch 1 service games. Oh, now I can play Star Fox. Great. Okay, I can play something online with my friends or a little bit of Splatoon. Splatoon 3 got a nice graphics patch. But I feel like a lot of my annoyance about the Nintendo Switch 2 is that there have been multiple leaks that apparently Nintendo is being incredibly stingy with dev kits. And now they're finally handing them out. But typically with game companies, you just hand them out like candy. Please make us games. Optimize games. Make it look great and possible and big and cool on our system, and Nintendo for some reason is guarding it. Nintendo.
Does this retard really believe that the game devs are not being given Switch 2 dev kits like a year in? This is like a talking point from last year. Okay, why is he regurgitating this bullshit now? It doesn't make any sense. Like, there's no way this is true. Like, it just boggles the mind that he would try and present this as something that's actually happening when it very clearly isn't. Like, have you seen the sheer amount of variety of games on Switch 2 from all these different publishers and developers? Like, the idea that Nintendo isn't, like, allowing people to develop games on Nintendo Switch 2, not giving them dev kits, it's completely retarded, especially when you take into consideration that the Switch 1 is built into the Switch 2. So in the hypothetical scenario in which you couldn't get a hold of a Switch 2 dev kit and wanted to produce for Switch 1, all you would have to do is just release a Switch 1 version of the game and then like release a Switch 2 version later. Okay? That's all you would have to do under that hypothetical scenario. It doesn't make any sense. It's just the reality of it. This idea that Nintendo doesn't hand out dev kits just doesn't make any sense.
Nintendo's being really weird about just letting people sit down with the Nintendo Switch 2 and make stuff for it. So because of it, now we're a year into it, and we have very few next-gen patches, right? I don't care about the live service. Oh, Apex Legends is now extra HD. I feel like there should be so many games on this that are just crazy, right? Give us insane stuff. Give us ports of like GTA 5 or something, right? Give us something that feels actually impossible.
GTA 5 could have run on a Wii U. Like, the idea that the Switch 2 can't run GTA 5, a 2013 PS3 game, like, is just retarded. Like, and honestly, like, I do think this extends to GTA 6 as well, because a lot of people are doing that thing where they're just like, oh yeah, Switch 2, it's never getting Grand Theft Auto 6. It's way too demanding. Like, and I think people are going to be in for a very, very nasty surprise. again, it's just such an insane cope that he's sitting there telling people that the Switch 2 should get the impossible port of Grand Theft Auto 5, but we can't ask for a 6 because the Switch 2 couldn't possibly handle that. It's just like, what are you talking about? What are you talking about?
Give us those dev kits that basically say, hey, everything is literally now possible on the Nintendo Switch 2. I'm a big fan of everything Final Fantasy. It is cool that, honestly, Final Fantasy 14 coming to it, that's kind of wild. A lot of the retro Final Fantasies are already on it. That's cool to me. But I can't help but think about, port stuff that used to be impossible. Give us Final Fantasy 15 or something, right? Because that was, optionally completely impossible last gen. Actually bring it over. Bring all those cloud games, like all the Kingdom Hearts and stuff. Actually put them on there. I think a lot of my problem is not just the fact that this thing is so expensive, it's that we're sort of just sitting here waiting for the generation to begin.
It has begun. I don't understand what he's talking about. What does he mean? We've gotten plenty of games, bro. Like does he think the third-party developers dictate when a generation begins? I know EA does that thing where they say that they start console generations, but it's yeah, that's not true. That never will be true. Just stop it. You're embarrassing yourself.
An entire year into this. And to me, that's just kind of unacceptable. Every other system either hits the ground running way better than this or kind of fails. I feel like I keep seeing headlines that even though the Nintendo Switch 2 itself is selling, a lot of the games aren't.
Headlines? Why don't you look at the actual numbers, you fucking retard? The actual numbers say otherwise. That plenty of third-party games are doing well on the Switch 2, and that all these articles are just coping. Because the entire narrative that third-party games don't sell well on Nintendo consoles is completely imploding, and that was pretty much the only thing keeping PlayStation relevant to begin with.
Part of that's the fact that it's a bunch of game key cards, so literally they've gone from being the kings of selling cool physical limited editions to now everything is digital. Even the actual physical boxes are just digital. It feels like Nintendo has kind of given up a lot of the promise that made the original Nintendo Switch so cool. And that brings me to my biggest gripe of all. This thing is not a handheld.
Uh-oh, retard alert! Retard alert!
I will die on that hill. This is not a handheld. Yeah, it can physically fit my hands a bit, but it no longer feels comfortable. It is way too ginormous. This is the kind of thing where, way back in the day with the PlayStation Vita, a lot of people used to joke that the PlayStation Vita is not a handheld because you have to put it in a backpack. They consider it not a handheld when it no longer fits in your pocket.
Things that never happened. What's he talking about? The definition of a handheld is that you hold it in your hand, that you can take it with you places. It not fitting in your, not being able to fit in your pocket is irrelevant. And in fact, plenty of Game Boys were not capable of that.
Well, let's just say right now I can put my original Nintendo Switch right into my pocket. Literally easy peasy. That's my thing. The original Nintendo Switch is an actual pocket system, and I can't help but think about the fact that, especially the Switch Lite, of course, this portability was such a selling aspect. And since I am just mostly playing Nintendo Switch 1 games, I find myself reaching for this more often. I'm helping a friend move. Well, let me bring my Nintendo Switch along so I can play stuff on the go. Oh, I'm house sitting? All right, let me bring the Nintendo Switch 2, but man, the Nintendo Switch 2 battery life is abysmally bad. This thing drains, this is the actual number, well documented, this drains 1% of battery per minute.
No, it doesn't. I've played handheld mode extensively over the past couple of weeks. I can tell you for a fact, this is not true. This is ridiculous. And even if it was, it's a rechargeable battery and is a complete non-issue.
If you're playing even Breath of the Wild or Cyberpunk or anything like that, this thing is going to go down literally in about 90 minutes. That to me is unacceptable. Whereas it's not a ton of bad battery. This thing will run at about 3 or 4 hours usually with a decent charge. But I can't help but feel okay, if I'm playing Pokemon or a retro game or Slay the Spire or something, if I'm playing a card game or something like that on this, at least I can turn the brightness down, mute it while I'm on a car ride, while I'm at a pool party trying to be antisocial or something like that. This is an actual handheld that is actually playable on the go, whereas this is a heavy-ass tablet, baby. This thing is just way too big, and a lot of it's the fact that, I'll be honest, if I'm going to lose a system, if I'm traveling with it and I'm a little worried about leaving it at a hotel room or something, I'd rather actually travel with the $150 system rather than the $500 system. This thing gets lost. Boy, howdy, am I going to be crying in the cab on the way home. Whereas if I lose this, whoop-de-doodle, it would suck, but I'll replace it, right? Wait, I'm not really crying a cab. But also, I think part of this just comes down to the fact that the Nintendo Switch 2 being so freaking bulky, in a lot of ways it just feels like it's more poorly weighted than stuff like the Steam Deck. It just no longer feels like that nice, light, airy experience that made the Nintendo Switch so easy to pick up and play. This is a thing that I used to see at conventions everywhere. Everywhere I've gone, I have never seen a Nintendo Switch 2 in public ever. I've never actually seen anybody else even own a Nintendo Switch 2. I'm the only person in my entire friend group or every party I go to that even owns a Nintendo Switch 2.
It's almost like it hasn't even been out for a year yet. Like, what are you talking about, bro? Like, it's only been one full year. And you're complaining about how nobody's using it? Like, come on, bro. Get over yourself, man.
It just feels like it's not hitting that casual game reach in a way the other one did. I think I'm in a spot where I'm enjoying the Nintendo Switch 2 more as a game console than I have any other system. It's very cool to me that it can play GameCube games. The fact that it does have so many different generations of port. But in a lot of ways, I just feel like the idea and the promise of the Switch 2 is very, very short of its potential. This is a thing I think is going to be much better at 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, and 5 years. But year one, I gotta say that at launch, I thought it was like a 4 out of 10. Now I think it's about a 6, maybe like a 6.5. Is it worth $500? In my opinion, no. If this thing is not your primary place to play, it's still not worth it. Part of what made the original Nintendo Switch so incredibly popular was a supplemental system. PC gamers loved this. A lot of other gamers on PlayStation 5 or Xbox loved having Nintendo Switch, not just for the exclusives, but it had an ability of portability, of interesting extra experiences that just were not doable on other places, right? And when it comes to this is such a big, beefy console. I think you're better off buying a PlayStation 5 if you're trying to have a console experience. Like, if you're not that obsessed with Donkey Kong, I don't really get the appeal of the Nintendo Switch 2, even after having played it for hundreds and hundreds of hours.
He needs to provide some receipts for that, because I'm going to press X to doubt. Like, what a fucking retard. What's he talking about? Like, oh, man, this was a supplementary console. Nobody would ever use this as their primary. Like, it's just such a joke. I love how he does this thing where it's like, oh, man, maybe in a couple of years it'll be good, but for now, oh, it's not worth picking up. It's like, it's almost like you can pick this up now and have it when newer games come out. You know, this isn't like a complicated concept. You know what I mean? Like, you pick one up when you want to play something on it. That's it. Like, I just don't understand what his problem with the Switch 2 actually is. Like, if you watch this video, it's just him doing this thing where he's just like, it's not portable, bro. And I'm just like, what are you talking about? That doesn't even make any sense. Like, nothing he said in this video made any kind of sense whatsoever.